Once upon a time, there was a kind and gentle girl named Cinderella. She was a soft-hearted person who was always nice to everyone around her. But sadly, Cinderella's life wasn't easy. After her mother passed away, her father married another woman who had two daughters of her own. Cinderella's new stepmother and stepsisters were cruel to her. They treated her very badly and made her do all the housework. She cooked, cleaned, and worked all day while they rested and had fun. Even though they treated her poorly, Cinderella stayed kind and patient. One day, news spread across the kingdom that the king was hosting a grand ball. The king wanted his son, the prince, to find a bride, so he invited all the young women in the kingdom. Cinderella was excited to hear about the ball and dreamed of going, but her stepmother and stepsisters wouldn't let her attend. Instead, they ordered Cinderella to help them get ready for the ball. She spent hours helping her stepsisters choose dresses, fix their hair, and get ready. They didn't thank her or show her any kindness, and when they were ready, they left for the ball, leaving Cinderella alone at home. As she watched them leave, Cinderella felt sad and wished she could go to the ball too. Just then, something magical happened. A warm, sparkling light appeared, and from it, a fairy godmother emerged. The fairy godmother saw Cinderella's sadness and decided to help her. With a wave of her magic wand, she turned Cinderella's rags into a beautiful gown. She gave her glass slippers that sparkled in the light and even changed a pumpkin into a grand carriage with horses to take her to the ball. Cinderella was overjoyed, but her fairy godmother gave her one important warning. This magic will only last until midnight, she said. When the clock strikes 12, everything will return to how it was. Cinderella promised to be back before midnight, and she climbed into the carriage and set off for the ball. When she arrived at the palace, everyone turned to look at her. Cinderella looked so beautiful that nobody recognized her, not even her own stepsisters. The prince noticed her as soon as she entered the ballroom. He was captivated by her beauty and grace and immediately walked up to her. The prince asked her to dance, and they danced together all night. Cinderella was so happy that she forgot all about the time. They laughed, danced, and talked, and it felt like a dream come true. But suddenly, the clock began to strike midnight. Cinderella remembered her fairy godmother's warning and realized she needed to leave quickly before the magic wore off. She thanked the prince and ran out of the palace in a hurry. As she rushed down the steps, one of her glass slippers slipped off her foot and was left behind. She didn't have time to go back for it, so she kept running, and soon the magic faded. Her beautiful gown turned back into her old clothes, and the carriage returned to a pumpkin. But Cinderella didn't mind. She had had the best night of her life. The next day, the prince couldn't stop thinking about the girl he had danced with. He wanted to find her and marry her, so he ordered his servants to search the kingdom for her. The only clue he had was a glass slipper she had left behind. He decided that he would marry the girl whose foot fit perfectly into the slipper. The prince and his servants went from house to house, trying the slipper on every young woman in the kingdom, but it didn't fit anyone. Finally, they reached Cinderella's house. Her stepsisters were eager to try on the slipper, but it didn't fit either of them. Just then, Cinderella stepped forward. Her stepmother tried to stop her, saying she wasn't the girl the prince was looking for. But the prince insisted, so Cinderella tried on the slipper. To everyone's surprise, it fit her perfectly. The prince recognized her at once as a girl he had danced with at the ball. He was overjoyed to have found her and asked her to marry him. Cinderella happily agreed, and soon after, they were married in a grand ceremony. Cinderella and the prince lived happily ever after, and her days of being mistreated by her stepmother and stepsisters were finally over. Thank you for listening to this story. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to our channel for more magical stories. See you in the next one.